Welcome to We in Lewis, a podcast dedicated to celebrating the remarkable, creative, and energetic people who live in Lewis and are helping our community forge a collective soul as appealing as it is unique. These are their stories and their words. They are the we in Lewis. I'm your host, Kevin McGinnis. Our guest today is Michael Agnew, who is the perfect antidote when periodically we let ourselves get a little distressed about what's happening around us, even here in Lewis. Mike is technically retired from corporate life, but he seems fully employed as the executive director of Tharros Village, which provides organized, supportive, and self-governed space for people experiencing homelessness. His earlier career included serving as vice president of finance for Siemens Healthineers North America, and he played a leadership role at Draeger Medical Systems and Rhine Chemie. A Drexel University alumnus, Mike is a man of profound, resolute faith and works every day to help our community get a little better, be a little more kind, and physically help those in need. Our sponsors for today's episode are the sister restaurants of Kindle and Half Full. At this point, you probably know that Kindle is famous for its ambiance, service, and amazing cuisine that provides American fare with a French flair. Most of you also know that Half Full is actually full good. It combines gourmet pizza and wine, the two most important adult food groups. But you may not know that Matt DiSabatino and his co-partners Ian Crandall and Joanna Good not only run multiple businesses, they're routinely involved in giving back to our community. Letting us use Kindle as a recording studio is a tiny fraction of the good they do throughout the year. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, Kevin.
Tell us about the origins of Tharros Village.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think we have to step back to when I first moved to Lewis. I came here in the spring of 21, and I thought I was coming down here to play golf. I was done at that point. I had retired in 19, and I taught high school for a couple years. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. And I was looking for something to do in the wintertime. I love to play golf. I love to ride my bike, but when it gets too cold, I'm looking for something else. And I heard about Code Purple. They were operating a shelter at the former Troop 7 building at the time. And I said, sure, I'll sign up and go to training. And the training wasn't so good, but they sent me on a on-the-job training. I spent one night in that building, and I was aware of the mold and the rodents throughout the night, and that was the last time I stayed in that building. So they said, no problem, we'll send you to Georgetown, and I spent the winter at the Georgetown Presbyterian Church right off the square, right off the circle down in Georgetown, and they didn't have any volunteers. So I was one of maybe 4 or 5 guys, and that meant 7 nights a week. I was there at least twice or maybe 3 times a week. And I said to the person running the operation, hey, at the end of the season, when you don't have anything to do, let's get together and let's talk about getting some volunteers so you don't have this issue next year. And she agreed, and that summer I got a call from her, and she said, hey, I'm not calling you for what you think. I want you to take over the shelter. And I said, what? I didn't want to do that. She said, no, I think God's calling you to take over this shelter. I said, I'll call you right back. So I sat down and talked to my wife, and she thought it might be a good idea if I go to my parish pastor, Father Lewis, and talk to him about it. So I did. And Father said, Mike, that's great. You're doing work for the homeless in Georgetown, but what about the homeless here in Lewis? I said, well, that's not why I'm here, Father. I want to know if I should take this role with Code Purple. And he says, I think you need to start a homeless shelter right here. And we went on, and where are we going to do this? He said, right here at St. Jude. And that's how the project started. This was in September of 22, and Code Purple starts on December 1st, so we didn't have a lot of time. So wherever I could, I started speaking to large groups of men, particularly, trying to, get some volunteers. And we did. We got a lot of volunteers, as a matter of fact. Father gave a famous homily on Halloween. I don't think I'll ever forget it. And the homily was about Halloween. He was talking about wearing masks, and the gospel that day was about Zacchaeus. I don't know if you know the story, but Zacchaeus was a short tax collector who had to climb a tree to see Jesus coming. And Jesus called him down from the tree and told him he was coming to his house for dinner that night. And in a similar way, Father Lewis talked about the need to identify what he called Christ in disguise, wearing a mask. And he weaved that through the talk until you realized he was talking about the homeless. And he got a standing ovation. I've never been in a church where the pastor or the speaker or the minister or the priest got a standing ovation, but he got one.
Did you feel like he was talking to you?
Oh, I knew it was coming. In fact, leading up to that day, he asked me to put together a press release for the Cape Gazette, and then he told me to hold off until something happens, and then there was this surprise homily, and now you can let the press release go. And the next day we had lots of volunteers and in-kind donations and monetary donations. So then we got together with a startup group, if you will, to figure out how to do it. And one of the dilemmas was that St. Jude was on one side of Route 1 and the bus station was on the other side of Route 1. And I figured we had to cross Route 1, but there was no crosswalk at 5 Points. So someone in the meeting said to me, well, you should call the governor and see if he'll put a crosswalk there. And I had recently met Bethany Hall Long. I forget why. But I decided to call her. And she said, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. About a week later, I got a call from one of her cohorts. And she said, well, we can't change the crosswalk, but how about we give you a bus? And that was life-changing. She gave us a paratransit vehicle for $1 a year leased to us. And that was actually the secret sauce, because we could go up and down Route 1 and pick up our guests wherever they were and bring them back to the men's shelter. Then in the first year, we got lots of questions, particularly in the Cape Gazette, a lot of letters being written. There's a men's shelter at St. Jude. Where's the women? And or more controversial, how come you don't let women into the men's shelter? And so I knew the gauntlet was at my feet now to find a women's shelter. And I'm still speaking in the area, and I was right about that time invited to speak at the Village Improvement Association in Rehoboth Beach, the ladies group. And I gave a presentation, and during the presentation, one of the ladies said, well, what are you doing about the homeless women? And I didn't really have an answer, so I said, well, I think there are homeless women, but I think they're hidden in plain sight. You know, maybe they're couch surfing or temporarily living with others, but I frankly don't see homeless women on the street. About 3 days after I gave that talk, I got a call from one of my men guests that's staying at the Code Purple shelter, and he said, hey, Mike, I understand you're looking for homeless women. I have 8 of them right here. And the gauntlet was now at my feet. And so I started calling churches, pastors all over the area, primarily here in Lewis, talked to every pastor in town, visited many, and many of them wanted to help, but they also had this limit of daycare. They have daycare programs, and they really couldn't imagine that the homeless guests were walking out as parents are dropping their kids off, because it would be the same hall, fellowship hall, in many of these churches. But there's one church I didn't call, because when I went to the website, I didn't see that there was a pastor's name there, so I kind of just ignored it, said, I'll get back to that. And it turns out that after exhausting every pastor in town, I got a call from the one church I didn't call, and that was the Lutheran Church of Our Savior down behind the Big Fish in Rehoboth. And the voice at the other end said, we wanted to start a shelter, we just didn't know how. And so I hopped in my car, and 10 minutes later, I was talking to the team down at the Lutheran Church of Our Savior. We put together a plan, and we launched the women's shelter. That was our second year. So our second year at St. Jude, first year at LCOS. And it just kept growing. So the volunteer base continued to grow. I think in our first year we had about 85 volunteers, and then in the second year we doubled that, 160, something like that.
So were you starting this just after COVID?
It was the first winter was 22-23.
Okay, so
in 21 I was working with the Code Purple program in Georgetown, having learned a lot. Volunteer base began to grow, a lot of people. And some began to ask, well, Code Purple runs from December 1st to March 15th, but what do you do on March 16th? I said, well, we put everything away and we start again the following year. And what I called the super volunteers began to rise up within the group of volunteers and said, no, we can't stop. We have to keep going. And so, okay, what do you want to do? We had a bus, so we decided, and LCOS, by the way, had showers in their restrooms. So we decided to start taking our guests who are now in wooded areas. You may be familiar along Coastal Highway, a number of wooded areas where Troop 7 is today, but also across from the Walmart. Many of our guests were going there in the spring of each year after Code Purple closed. And the bus would go and pick them up and take them to LCOS, feed them lunch, have a nice shower, and then return them to their tents. Then these super volunteers noticed that there was trash being built up in the woods. So they brought trash bags over and said, hey, put your trash in the trash bags. When we take you back after your shower, we'll pick the trash up and take it to St. Jude and throw it in the dumpster, which we did for quite a while. Until one Sunday, we were picking up trash, and one of the bags in the bus leaked, and it had human waste in it. And the bus required some serious cleaning, some pine oil and spic and span and so forth. It's a lot of scrubbing. Father Lewis came to me and said, that'll be all with that, Mike. You have to figure something else out. And okay, so another gauntlet at my feet, let me figure this out. And I figured it's state property. If I wanted to do something on state property, I need to contact whoever manages that. It turned out to be the Office of Management and Budget. This is the Carney administration. And I called them up and I said, look, I want to put some portable toilets in the woods on your property. How do I go about doing that? And the then head of the OMB called me back and said, okay, we're open to the idea, but if you're going to put portable toilets there, tell me how you're going to control it. And I said, what? It's a toilet. What do I have to control? And they said, no, if we put toilets there, then we're acknowledging that there's people living on the property. And if we do that, then we have to find a way to control the situation. So I wrote this now historical 10-page protocol on security and how we were going to control it. And I presented it to the then head of the OMB, a man by the name of Saran Cade. They accepted it, and we drew up an MOU, and he came down to see the operation as we were getting ready to start. And he famously said to me, my head's telling me not to let you do this, but my heart's telling me I have to let you do this. And my response to him was, as I would say to him today, that was really a courageous statement you made, and you really enabled this to take place. Never forgot that. Tharros is the Greek word for courage, and it started with Saran, but it actually applies to everyone, not only the guests, the resident guests, but also the volunteers, the donors, anyone who's supporting us is taking courage to do that. So the word courage applies, and making it Greek sort of made it a little bit of a Christian secret there. I think just about everybody recognizes why I used Greek. We also wanted to create a separate 5013C, separate from any of the churches, to stand alone. And it's a lot easier to garner grants from government agencies, for example, if you're not associated with a church. And Tharros is not. So Tharros was born. Originally, we called it Camp Tharros. And then later on, it became Tharros Village. And the rest, I guess, is history. It really evolved out of a definite need. And in the first year, we just had $50 Walmart tents, and they sat on the ground, and there was a lot of problems with that. A lot of problems with rain and wind and sun. Sun really eats up the material in that low-quality recreational tents that are meant to be used maybe 5 times a year, and we're using it for months, right? In our first season, I should say, we didn't actually get permission from the state until September, and we didn't we didn't open until October. So we were actually only open for 45 days, but I still wanted to do it because Carney was on his way out.
Right.
A new administration's coming in, and I wanted to have that test case already in the books, so to speak. And it was only 45 days, but we learned a lot in that 45 days about what we were doing and why we were doing it and what restrictions we needed to make it work. And I guess it was about that time that the city of Lewis came through with some ARPA funds to put a fence around the property. And that made a big difference, adding more security. We've subsequently learned that it's really, are you familiar with Abraham Maslow, sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? So we kind of think of it that way, right? Maslow, first level is food and shelter, and you really need to get there before you can do anything else. And I would say in our first season, we were just getting shelter. With plenty of donations from faith communities throughout the area, but it was just that. In the following season, we put the tents up on tarps, on skids. So we raised them off the ground a little bit. And this season, I think we have the coup de grace. It looks really nice now. But also in our second season, Matt Meyer, our governor, told us that we couldn't just open up as usual, that we first had to go to the county and get an ordinance, get a variance for using the property for the purpose that we intended to use it. And that was quite a laborious effort. We had to put together a plan and present it to the Planning and Zoning Board. And then after that presentation, we had to go back and present it to County Council, and in each case get a vote. And that took quite a while because they meet, they don't meet that often. And getting on their agenda, we actually got accelerated. So they recognized the need, and they moved us up so we could move quickly as possible at a government level, but quickly through their process. So we didn't open up in the second season until July 25. And so we were open for the better part of July, August, September, October, and then we closed in November. So we were open for about 5 months. Everyone at Tharros has to work. And we weren't very successful last year, but we're very successful this year. It's a lot easier to look back on what we didn't do, and now that we're doing it successfully. But everyone at Tharros today is required to work 24 hours a week. If they're not employed, then we get them a volunteer job at one of the thrift shops along Coastal Highway. Right now we have a partnership with New Life and with All Saints and God's Way. And there's also AMVET there on 24, and all of them are looking for volunteers. And if you are working, then we just need to see your pay stub. we're not looking for money, we're not taking money, but we need to see that the hours are there. And if you're volunteering and you're not employed, we have a time card. I gave you an example of what one looks like in there. The thrift shops fill it out and they send it to us, and we track those hours to try to maintain a mean of about 24. All of our guests are also required to go to case management. We partner with First Aid Community Action Agency in Georgetown, and they have their case managers come up once a week. Everyone has to meet with their case manager once a month in person, and once a month virtually on the phone. No drugs, no alcohol are allowed on the property. If you have a problem with alcohol or drugs, we have partnerships with Banyan up in Milford, or Sun Behavioral down in Georgetown, and we'll get you the first bed available. But then if you come back, then you have to go to your NA or your AA meetings, and we have recovery coaches now today that help with that.
So how big is your operation now? I mean, it
continues to grow. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we only have 28 tents, if you will, 28 quarters, resident quarters, and that's mandated by ordinance. The 28 was a magic number because our shelters, our Code Purple shelters, had a fire marshal limit of 14. So it doesn't matter how big the room is, the fire marshal would only allow, in the state of Delaware, John Rudd, the fire marshal up in Dover, who I have on speed dial. He's a good guy. Only 14. 2 seasons ago, we went past the 14, and we had to do what's called a fire watch. So our volunteers not only had to spend the night with our guests, but we had to have somebody awake all the time when there was, and we had, I think, maybe as many as 27, 28 men in the men's shelter. The women's shelter never really hit 14 too often. And the demand now is far exceeding our bed limit. So I'm pleased to say that we have a partnership with a second men's shelter, third shelter overall for this coming season in Bethany Beach. So we're excited about that. So how big is the operation, you're saying?
Yeah.
I think in Code Purple we have about 300 volunteers. We have 10 volunteer positions each night in our 2 shelters. Of course, that'll be expanding. We'll be adding another 4 volunteers, so I'll be saying 14 soon, but right now 10. And then we have 2 bus drivers, one at night and one in the morning, that take our guests from wherever we pick them up, largely Walmart in Rehoboth, to the shelter at night, and then in the morning from both shelters to the Community Resource Center in Rehoboth Beach, where they can get a shower, get breakfast, do laundry, unless they're working. Most of our guests are not working in the months outside of the seasonal jobs that they have here. So a lot of our guests will be hired in full-time jobs in right around St. Paddy's Day, and then get laid off sometime in the middle of or the end of October. So November, December, January, many of them are unemployed. So they're able to get out of the weather during the day at the Community Resource Center. Yesterday we had a health fair, a health and resource fair at Tharros, and invited all of these potential guests from behind Tharros to come in. BB was there with their bus. Church, the United Church up in Milford, brings a shower system down for us, and we had a barbecue, hamburgers, hot dogs. We were able to talk to people, and out of that, we got 6 candidates right today. So we're adding to the current population. Again, our limit's 28. But I think we'll be a little over 20 by the end of this week at the moment. So I think we're doing really well.
Have you found as you meet with these people, work with these people, there's sort of common threads? Is there sort of any sort of pattern as to how they ended up in a homeless situation?
Well, there's always a trauma. And I might say both you and I, Kevin, we probably had some trauma at one point or another in our life, but likely we had a hand up. Somebody was there. And this is maybe undiagnosed, but they definitely experienced some sort of a trauma. And they don't reveal it right away. It takes some time to get to know them. But if you sat down with our guests and 300 of our volunteers have already done that within the community. You find that there, but for the grace of God, go I. Right? They're just like you, just like me. Many of them with good educations, maybe had good jobs, and then the trauma hit. Trauma could be anything, but it usually leads to a vice like alcoholism, and that is a downhill slope as well. And I could tell you anecdotal stories about some of our guests. They're really just good people. They just have a moment where they need a hand, and I think that's what Code Purple is really it benefits not only the guests but also the volunteers. The volunteers probably get as much out of it as the guests. There's the guys I spent the night with, the 14 guys I spent the night with are all sort of putting their coats on and leaving and going out into the cold again. And they're there today because of me, because of what I did. That's a tremendous feeling that you don't get from just watching the evening news and going to bed or watching a movie. There's a return on investment that's almost immediate. And that, I think, is what our guests enjoy. They enjoy being part of this program. It also gives them I'll call it a safe environment. If you see a homeless person on the street in a big city, if you see a homeless person outside the Wawa right here in Lewis or Rehoboth Beach, you might not necessarily approach them. Or once you have this experience, you might approach them because you'll probably know their name. But up to that point, you might be a little timid about approaching them. But when you come into a Code Purple shelter and you meet them face to face and you sit down and have a coffee or share a meal with them, your worldview changes and you are permanently changed because of that.
Did you have any idea that this would grow to the extent it has?
I feel, I'm just an instrument. The Lord is doing the work. Honestly, we experienced so many miracles in the last couple of years, so many what we might have viewed as impossible challenges we've been able to overcome with the help of this community. We have a community of generous, thoughtful, and I would say well-educated people here in the Lewis and Rehoboth Beach area, and we continue to benefit from that in many different ways. So I'm not surprised anymore. After my third information night of SRO, I get all the seats, all 350, set them all up, and we'll do what we can to provide coffee and cookies for everybody when they come in. And that's just an information night. Then our guests, our volunteers come back a week later for, I'll call it dealing with difficult situations or trauma-informed counseling. And then the week after that, they come back again to learn about the facility, how to open the doors, how to turn the lights on, where's the heat, how to get supplies. And we also have what are called night captains. So each night, both of our facilities have surveillance cameras, and each night a person takes the night captain duty. That means that should something happen during the night, the two guys that are staying there, or the two women staying there, are not alone. They can contact their night captain via text or phone, and the night captain then can easily get a hold of the police if necessary, or fire or ambulance, whatever's necessary. The night captain can handle it while the overnight host is dealing with the situation in front of them. It's never happened, but we're prepared. It's like a fire alarm, right? You don't wait for a fire.
You'll never need it until you need it.
Exactly right. So we have several levels of security, and the night captains also have access to the cameras right on their phone, so they can sit up in bed. The phone goes off right next to their head. They can sit up in bed and look at the cameras and see what's going on and address the situation immediately, should there be a situation. It's very rare that we have a situation that involves the night captain, but they're all trained to do that.
Now, when you're providing services like you are,
Yeah.
did you have to sort of learn a few things you should be doing or you shouldn't be doing in terms of what you're providing them, especially regarding food?
Yes. That goes back to my experience down in the Presbyterian church. Each night, the ladies of the church would make like a casserole type meal. So anybody who wants something hot to eat, they were able to have that. They would also have ready to eat meals, what I call micro meals, something that's already in a tub and goes into the microwave and quickly becomes a meal. Or the other very popular among the homeless is things that can be made with just hot water, like ramen noodles. So all of that's available. And in our first season, when we started our own shelter, we pretty much just had those micro meals and hot water-based meals. In our second season, we started with the home-cooked meals. But we also did something in the morning at the Presbyterian church. They would have these sandwiches that the ladies in the church would make, these white bread sandwiches with something in it. Maybe it's peanut butter and jelly or tuna fish or chicken salad or something. Sometimes it was just apple butter. I can't imagine eating a sandwich with just apple butter, but they made these sandwiches, put them in little sandwich bags, and then put the sandwich bags into a brown bag with potentially a piece of fruit or and then maybe a candy bar or something just as a treat. And I'm the overnight host. I would set the bags up by the door, and as the guys went out, I assumed they would just pick up the bag and walk out the door. But as you can imagine, they didn't. They would take the bag and dump it on the table, and they would pick through what's in the bag and take certain things and leave other things behind. And I thought, well, we have to figure out how to do this better. So I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it a different way. So when I got the team together and we talked about what we're going to do here in our Code Purple shelter, I said, well, first thing we got to do is we can't have brown bags. We have to have clear bags so you can see what's in it. You don't have to dump everything out. And we're not going to have these peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because, that doesn't have a shelf life. We need things that have shelf lives. So let's put like protein bars or Nutri-Grain bars or something that's breakfasty but also shelf stable. So next thing you know, I have about 1,500 Ziploc bags with a bottle of water and protein bars, and whatever I told them to do, they did it. So maybe a bag of nuts or a breakfast bar, and nobody was taking them.
Oh, no.
I had 1,500 made up. So I had, 14 guys a night for 100 nights, and they're not moving. What's going on? And I say to the guys, hey, you're going out. Take this, have this for breakfast as you're getting on the bus in the morning. No, I don't want it, Mike. That's all right. Never mind. And then somewhere in the middle of the season, one of my guests, he snuck out to catch a smoke. And he took one of the protein bars and stuck it in the door to keep it from locking while he was outside smoking. I didn't say anything, but I waited for him to come back in. I said, hey, Frank, that's food that you stuck in the door there. And he famously held the bar up next to his teeth and said, not for me, Mike, and showing me that he only has every other tooth, which is very common among the homeless. And I knew that this situation of dental care, which is really a big problem among the homeless, Medicaid covers everything. They'll even pull your teeth, but they won't help you maintain your teeth. It's a real dilemma. But yes, we were stuck with these bags of breakfast bars that no one wanted. And at the end of the season, we always have a volunteer appreciation luncheon, somewhere around St. Patty's Day. Our program ends on March 15th, so it's only a couple days.
This is the Code Purple program.
Code Purple, yeah. And as a joke, I put these Ziploc bags with water and whatever was packed in there, because I had lots of them. I made them a centerpiece, and I was going to give them away. Everyone thought that was funny, because everyone knew the problem. And we didn't do that the second year. So the second year we got it straightened out, and now we have fresh fruit delivered. Some of our supermarkets that have something aging that they can't keep any longer, we get that fruit. And sometimes we just have volunteers that buy fruit, a lot of bananas, so soft fruit, no apples, unless they're already pre-cut, Applesauce is very popular, but not apples themselves. So you can imagine the dilemma if you didn't have a full set of chops and
Yeah.
you're trying to consume something that's nourishing. And you also have to remember that diabetes is also prevalent among our guests. So they can't eat just about anything that's sweet. They try to stay away from that stuff the best they can.
You start here in this area with 3,
Yeah.
and you have 300 volunteers.
Yep.
You have churches. You have an amazing, just an incredible support group all around you.
Yes.
But managing it has got to be a challenge.
Yes. Yes. And my marriage at the same time. Yes. As a matter of fact, last year, my wife and I, we just celebrated, by the way, our 45th wedding anniversary this past weekend. So we're very blessed.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Last season, we took a 50-day holiday to Europe. So we were gone for, 50 days. So it was really, really a great trip throughout most of Central Europe. But yes, leadership is very important. I would say to you that one of my strengths is being able to identify skills and identifying the right people that can take on leadership roles. If you're familiar, are you familiar with Daniel Pink, the author? Great author. His first book was called The Whole Mind. It was really a great book. But the second one was called Drive, and Drive was it was a business book. Drive was about how to motivate people without paying them more money. And it's really true. The 3 things that drive people is giving them autonomy to make decisions, to make sure that they're trained in the skill that they're responsible for. Third one is knowing that what they're doing contributes to a greater purpose. So autonomy and greater purpose, I think, is the key. So if you introduce people to that responsibility and give them full reign to make decisions, then they step up, and we have this leadership. And we also have that at Tharros as well. We have the same leadership team. I have Frank Arena is my director of governance. He deals with all the government agencies in the area. Mike Sipos is the infrastructure guy, so physical plan, everything having to do with the physical plan, and all of the vendors that contribute, including the contractors for a cause, who are new partners as well. And Melody Wilson, who's got a very strong background in social work and trauma-informed counseling, is our head of operations. So we have really strong team members that we all met in the Code Purple environment, and then I began to identify the people that were willing to step up and be leaders. And I think that's key to success, being able to step back and not have your fingers on all the puppets, if you will.
And internally for your volunteers, you're kind of giving them a chance to be something that's more than themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
They're giving them something of which they can be proud. It's not easy. It's not hard. It's hard work, but
Yeah.
you feel better about your community and yourself.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And the best example of that is our luncheon that we have each March. You can imagine that while we have 300 volunteers, they don't all see each other.
Right.
So each night we have 2 people doing intake at both shelters. We have 2 people staying overnight in both shelters, so there's 8 in 2 shelters. And then we have 2 bus drivers, and they run into each other from time to time, but they're very constantly introducing themselves to the new person overnight, the new person doing intake, the new person driving. But when they come to the appreciation lunch, everyone's there. And the thing that they have in common is our guest. So they talk about the experiences with the guest and how one guest is doing and how they like this one guest or that one guest. And some of the funny experiences that we had, because every one of them is a character. And you can begin to see the joy that comes from that. We also have a laundry team of more than, I want to say, close to 30 people now. One of your earlier guests, Don't Call Me Dave Shook, was running my laundry team for quite a while. Just retired this past season. And the woman that took his place happens to have the same last name, Fran Shook. So I had to do some research into that Shook name to see where the washing machine was in their history. And I did it was a bit of a funny story there. But So we have a laundry team. We have all these chefs cooking. We have storage lockers for the homeless. So we have behind the movie theater. We have garages full of. You're familiar with these 96-gallon trash cans. Roughly 13 cubic feet. Each of our guests gets one, and they can safely store their out-of-season clothing, important papers and mementos in the storage lockers. And the lockers open once or twice a week. The bus takes you there. You get what you want, leave what you want, and they lock it back up again. So we have that program. We have a bicycle ministry. Lewis Cycle Shop does all our repairs for us. The Sussex Cyclists, the bike group in the area, a very large bike group of which I'm a member, pays for all the parts for repairs at the Lewis Cycle Shop. So, and we get lots of bikes donated. So our guests use a lot of bicycles, both Tharros and Code Purple use bikes. So we have that ministry running as well. And there's a group of people that supply all that, make sure that happens at the right time. So,
when did you meet your wife?
Oh, that's a change of story. So I met my wife we actually knew each other in high school. So I went to Catholic high school in Philadelphia.
Who
All
would have
boys
guessed?
school. All boys school. Father Judge, I'll put it out there. And my sisters all went to an all-girls school, St. Hubert's, in Northeast Philadelphia. And my wife also went to St. Hubert's. My mom went to St. Hubert's. Yeah, we knew each other in high school, but we didn't date in high school. She was from the Italian neighborhood. I was from an Irish Catholic neighborhood. So the Italian Catholics over there, the Irish Catholics, on two different sides of the street. And I didn't know anybody over there. And we all met in high school because we're coming together in high school. And that's, I guess, when I ran into her. But again, we didn't date. It was we ran into each other at a program that was run by the church that I was involved in, which probably got me involved in this at some point in my life. For another day, maybe. And we both went to Temple, and in our freshman year at Temple, we met each other and started dating. And yeah, the rest is history. We had 3 kids, 7 grandkids.
Are the kids all grown and out?
Yeah. Oh, everyone's out. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
No
Yes.
one's on the payroll.
Successfully. No one's on the payroll. Exactly right. Yeah, no, our kids have advanced degrees. They've done really well. My wife was the dean of a physician assistant program in Philadelphia, so she was a PA herself. And my son married a PA. My daughter's a PA. My other daughter's a PT. She wanted to be different than her sister. So we have a lot of medical personnel in our family.
You mentioned before about your love with bikes.
Oh,
Now,
bikes.
you're part of a bike group here in town, right?
Yes, I am. A Sussex Cyclist. Yeah.
Sussex.
Yeah. I'm actually the current treasurer of the Sussex Cyclists.
Well, of course.
Not that I don't have enough to do. Yes, I am. I was a runner, actually, when I came down here. I was running short distances, half marathons, well into my 60s. And I blew out my meniscus on my left knee and eventually the meniscus on my right knee. And the doc, my orthopedic surgeon, suggested I start riding bikes more than I run. So I don't run anymore. I'd love to run. I think it's euphoric to be able to finish some of these races. Broad Street, the 10-miler down Broad Street in Philadelphia was a big race of mine. And the half marathon also was only 3 more miles, as my father used to say. It's only 3 more miles.
But you're a serious biker. I mean,
I don't know if I'm that serious. I ride with bikers that are much more serious than me. They drop some major coin at the Lewis Cycle Shop. So, and remember, this is a flat state, right? So you don't change gears very often here.
but does biking give you a chance to sort of relax?
Oh, absolutely.
But
So-
I would think you're going at a good speed, so
Yes.
you're not exactly just like tuning out and watching
Yeah.
the trees go by.
Well,
right?
you know, I sometimes refer to Stephen Covey's 7 habits, right? So the 7th habit is sharpen the saw, right? So you got to have that downtime and sharpen the saw.
Today we live in a culture where church is optional,
Yeah.
not a given. You're clearly a man of faith. How important has religion been to your life and what you've accomplished?
Well, I would say to you that my faith is a center part of my life. I mentioned to you that I went back to school. I went to St. Charles Seminary and got a master's in theology while I was working. I was kind of at the top of my career. There was no more promotions. I was already at the highest point that you could be in a $7 billion company. My boss was the CFO, and she was the same age as me, so she wasn't going anywhere. But I always went to daily mass in the Catholic Church since Pius X. We've had mass every day. I was at mass this morning, as a matter of fact, and I go to mass every day wherever I am in the world. I shouldn't say that. One time I was in Osaka, Japan, and I couldn't find a church. It's a funny story. It was Ash Wednesday, and I couldn't find a church. And my guest said, "Do you want meat or fish tonight?" And of course I said it was a fasting day, so we're going to have fish. And I never ate a live fish before. In Japan, that's pretty popular.
Both prayer and meditation allow us to move beyond ourselves, to reconnect with God or a higher consciousness.
Yep.
They provide an opportunity to mentally step aside from all that's going on around you and reconnect, whether it's with the divine or a higher sense of who and what we are. Does prayer provide you with that opportunity?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm in prayer every day, as I mentioned. I try to start the day that way, and I'm not alone. I see it. The numbers continue to grow. At least in my church, we're doubling the number of pews in our church. We're starting a $6.5 million expansion project because the numbers are growing. But I enjoy with my fellow parishioners Mass every day. The Eucharist is really important to me, to get it, to receive it, to be part of it. It grounds you. It prepares you for the day, and it allows you to raise beyond. I'll say reason. Faith is a way to elevate reason. Grace is a way to elevate nature, right? So we think of supernatural things. It's the Lord's grace that causes that to happen. And when phenomenon happen in front of you that were thought to be impossible, you don't really blink anymore because you kind of expect it to happen. It's just there. But you have to be able to recognize it. And it's only through prayer and understanding faith, again, faith with reason, not without. It's not the absence of reason. We're not just blindly having this faith. We're asking a lot of questions. But then you get to a point where it's not unreasonable to consider the presence, if that makes sense. I could go back and do a theology lesson with you, but I won't do that right now.
Prayer can be a little humbling because you pray in hope of an answer, and sometimes you get it, and it's not necessarily the one you thought.
Yeah, you always get it. You always get the answer. That's what people don't understand. The answer always comes, but you're looking in the wrong place for the answer. And sometimes the answer comes through others, right? So sometimes I think of that funny story where a guy drowns after a hurricane, and he says to the Lord, I thought you were going to save me. He said, well, didn't you see the guy with the boat that I sent out to save you? Well, I didn't think that was you. Then the guy with the helicopter came, and I didn't think that was you. So sometimes the signals are not what you think, but they're always there. And people recognize it. You have a plan, and then God laughs, right? So there's a plan that's happening, and we're all part of that plan. And here we are in this wonderful community of Lewis, where we have really great people, and just I can't think of the experience I've had since I moved to Lewis has just been tremendous. The more I get to know this town, the more I love it, and the people in this town.
Is there something about this place that not only attracts people like you, but also allows you to do the sort of work you're doing?
It certainly makes it easier. Yes, I can't imagine failing. I'm not one who quits. I was a runner, remember? So even when I'm not feeling well, I keep running. But this town is it's a mecca for retirees, but it's also a mecca for well-educated people, people that are that love life, that want to enjoy life, but also recognize their responsibility in the world as well and want to make it a better place. But I've enjoyed everyone I've met in this town, everyone with one charism or another that they bring that adds value to the community that we live in. I can't say enough about the great people of Lewis. I will say that when I speak, and you'll find some humor in this, but I very often start when I first address the group with a ramp, something that gets your attention, and I say, how many people move to Lewis or move to Rehoboth Beach because of the low tax base? And everyone raises their hand. And then I say, well, with low taxes come low services. And people sit back and think, what do you mean? Well, the things I mean, for example, addressing the vulnerable population in our community, it's not going to be done by the county or the state. It's really up to us. The people that I've met who've all lived their whole lives in Lewis have explained to me that years ago, before the influx of all you guys from Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, there was just us. And the community was known as a community of people helping people. So the government wasn't built to support some of the needs that we see in other counties, in other states, where we all came from. This is a community of people that were always helping people whenever they were in need. Help your neighbor, help your friend. And so there was never a need for government to step in and do things that many other counties and states have done. And that makes sense to me. That makes sense when I see what we need here, when we see the need for, in my case, the vulnerable population that needs to be addressed isn't being addressed by the county. It's historical. It's not up to the county. It's up to us. And the response that we've had to date has just been initially remarkable, not surprising. It's just, we're just instruments, and the Lord is just guiding us.
Thanks, Mike, for talking with us, for being so candid about the remarkable work you're doing and the importance that faith does and can play in our lives. On a personal note, I think your service is remarkable, and the help and comfort you are providing in real time is amazing.
I'm happy to be here, and thank you for the invitation, Kevin.
A special thanks to the sister restaurants Kindle and Half Full for their support. If you have a chance to meet Matt, Ian, or Joanna, you'll understand why you always feel welcome, the food's always good, and the ambiance is so appealing. And thank you for joining us today. I have no idea what you may be dealing with at this moment, but I hope that Mike's story is a reminder that while there seems to be a lot that's wrong these days, there's also a lot that's right. Till next time, from a recording studio here at our beloved Kindle restaurant, this has been We in Lewis the Podcast. See you on the streets.